1, 2, 3, 4.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You're listening to This is the Online Time Fame Podcast. I'm your host, JD. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. This is going to be a good show. This show right here is talking about, they asked Charleston White what he thought. And Charleston White had the interview with, there was this female that was well known around. She came on the scene in the 2018. She appeared on the scene, and she wrote this book called Judge This Cover. Her name was Brittany Renner. She wrote this book 2018, and it talked about a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't read the book myself, but I was familiar with it. And through interviews, I heard it be said that she talked about how basketball players were stupid. She may have said something in that, don't quote me, but the gist of what she said was basketball players was dumb, or NBA players was dumb. And it might have been also like, it could have been professional athletes were dumb in the way they get women pregnant. So because she said that should have been the last woman that an athlete would get pregnant. So that's, like unplanned, completely unprepared. And, as we look back and the way brothers have been suffering for years in terms of going through the family court system, it has just been a situation that does not benefit a professional athlete like this. So, for anyone else, if you see like a professional athlete worked hard all their life, because you're talking about just like someone who is a physician, a doctor, and I compare it in a way where I say someone who's going to be at a certain level academically, they study every day. They come home from school, they have to prepare an extra hour or two per day to master the subject matter, whether it be the sciences. If it's someone that's going to be an engineer, they study. In the same way with sports, music, people who had to practice in addition to going to school. So depending on how long someone has, pursued that endeavor, because even if it's basketball, even if it's a kid just getting out of school, coming home, changing clothes, and going out for playing basketball for another 2 hours every day until the season starts, the basketball season, if it was, like middle or moving on up to really high school, and having to practice that 5 months out of the season, that November for high school approximately through March through the playoffs. So that's the season right there of pretty much everyday practice, not counting outside practice and other games and pick up and times that players got to work on their game. So there's a lot of work involved, just say that. So for all that work involved, they're already getting girls in high school. And then you mean to tell me they going to college, they get more girls, they leave college early nowadays because of the, the situation with income being able to be made in college now with the name, image, and likeness deals called NIL. So they do get a percentage of the money, of the so-called monies that's earned in college basketball by the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association. They do pay dividends now. And the thing is, the funny thing, as I said, when the player knows the game, someone told them, everybody's family has someone who says, don't do that. Don't do that. Watch this. Watch that. When people say, well, man, I'm just, coming from the penitentiary and I'm going to teach the young brothers what not to do. They know what not to do. They know someone pointed to you when you went to jail or before you went to jail and said, see him right there? He's going to jail. Don't be like him. Now, that's on the individual if they choose to do what they weren't supposed to do. But people have been told. We've been familiarized with. We've been made familiar with biblical references and texts in the Quran and the Torah. We do know the life principles of what not to be. So this isn't like I'm going to come and talk to these children. Yes, that may personify some of what they may have thought, but that's an ignorant child who had no direction. But what do we have? Inner city children 80% out of wedlock. Now, that doesn't mean that just because it's 80% born out of wedlock, the parent is probably around, the so-called biological father. He may be around and have interaction. He just may not have married that woman. So if that doesn't mean they don't have a living arrangement or they live in the same household, or he may live very close and is very involved in that child's life, even if it's guidance and just advice. Even if it's at that low level, it's still significant, and it's still what a lot don't get. That's why a lot gravitate toward the streets and call somebody in the streets their family, because they may have had a broken home. But the point is this, going back to the woman, everybody knows not to get these women pregnant if they had game. See, by the time they get a certain age, if someone pulls them to the side with game, a child can understand game by 8 years old. Game. Now, they may not be able to internalize the full aspects. Excuse me. They may not be able to internalize the whole aspect of the game, but they heard the game. They were told by parents, which was not even game, but it was principles from family. But when they went outside, they may have got some extra knowledge that wasn't put in the same way, where it would be in a biblical context or just the context of right or wrong, truth and falsehood. They may have not, truth and lies. They may not have gotten it that way, but they did get told from 4 years old, stop. 2 years old, 3 years old, don't do that. They were taught and raised, if they were raised correctly. If you don't raise a child correctly, they're going to be unruly. So these people weren't unruly throughout their lives and grew up and became athletes and entertainers. They wasn't paying attention. They dropped the ball. So as we say, the 3 points that used to be said all the time, people used to always use, it's always a phrase that people use to sound smart. There's always they call it the ghetto colloquialism. It's always a street hood saying that everybody says, whether they mean it or not, or whether they adhere to it or not. They used to say, I'm just keeping it real, keep it real. That was a saying, but all the people saying keep it real may have been perpetrating and keeping it fake. So the now phrase is of many. It's many things they say. So you know what we mean. But what we're saying here is, don't get these females pregnant without thinking of the consequences. That was a known fact. So when we see the athlete and he gets to college, see, that's just lack of game. That's lack of love, because no self-love, no family love, and no vision for the future. To get a child by a broad that everybody already had, or she had a few dudes, she ain't your wife. She ain't going to be around. You're an athlete. You ain't as smooth as you think you are. You might think you fly. No, they just looking at the long range that you're going to be successful. But successful and just a top flight individual, that don't coincide. See, we associate being wealthy, financially stable, with being a good person. And that's what people are learning more and more today. That some of the people with economics are some of the most unruly, rude, and disrespectful people that one could meet. The most arrogant, self-centered, jealous, controlling. Like, it's all of these factors that are put to the side, swept under the rug, about what the character of people with economics are. Like to be bossy, like to control things. I'm a boss. And so what comes with that? We don't see a humble, quiet individual, because sometimes it takes a lot to get to that point. It takes a lot of ruthlessness and conniving and cunning to reach the top. So some of those characteristics could be understood, so to speak. But if we talking about a female, a dude in college, I might make it somewhere. I might get paper. So why would I be reckless in a situation that it was just a moment of temporary gratification, and you got this woman pregnant, and now you got to deal with her for 18 years. That's the worst move that can be made by a professional athlete. That's the most backward move. That is a reflection of one's character and one being delusional and forgetting and taking their eye off the ball. So Charleston White was asked this. He spoke about it before, because when Charleston White goes on interviews, he's asked topics. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And he'll give his opinion on it. So he has been keeping it 100% real, because Charleston White has been letting people make reactionary videos. He ain't striking and placing copyright restrictions on the clips that people are using. But we're not going to use his clips. We'll just say what he said. We may give a reference to what interview it was. But like we say, a lot of the interviews that he does himself end up getting taken off the internet anyway if his channel gets struck. And he may not have those clips there, but we'll just at least add some more of our own information to not just completely ride off what he's doing. We won't just use his content in that way, because we can still react to it, because he did lay down certain principles that have become popular and then which rang to be true. So unfortunately, with this so-called, it's the list of so many entertainers who got caught slipping, who got a woman pregnant, who turned around and asked for $40,000, $35,000, $20,000 a month, $6,000 a month, and she wasn't doing nothing to the point where she could afford to get pregnant by a dude who wasn't going to be around and be happy with that amount of money. It speaks to her inability to have a vision for herself and maybe even pursue her own career to earn that amount of economics, but she's going to lay down with this dude and get the residuals and get that backside money to be what is referred to in the mainstream world even as a baby mama. That's now a common term that Caucasians use. You go to a party. I'm at the NBA National Basketball Association owners brunch. They got events that the NBA players go to that we don't see on the news. They got stuff. The organizations, each team themselves, they hold events where they get to meet the families of the people who work for the New York Knicks or the Los Angeles Lakers. They have events that they get to come to. They got season ticket holder events, and they got private events. And then you up in there, and they're having small talk conversation. So, Abdul Johnson for the Los Angeles Lakers. Do you have children? Here's some pictures of my kids. And, you got these secretaries and even executives. They're showing photos and they're showing family members of the team owners. But yeah, I got, you're talking like I got 2 sons, Oh, wow. Your wife didn't come though, huh? But, she had 2 children. That's so nice. Oh, no, wait a minute. No. See, I got 1 son by this one woman, and then the other son is by the other. And the Caucasian is, oh, I see. So right then, you ranked yourself. You ranked your legacy. You ranked yourself, not because you didn't carry out Christian marriage and uphold the Christian idea of the ideal of a Christian marriage. Not even looking at it like that. It was just no plan involved. You just, one night, you got the broad over there, y'all watching Netflix, you done took her out to eat, you ain't had practice that day, and you trying to knock it down, and you just completely dropped the ball, got reckless, and got this woman pregnant. Just dropped the ball, like it was a 3-second shot, championship game, and you were 5 feet from the rim. I mean, that can be missed, but you did not have to make that bad decision of getting that woman over there, getting her pregnant, knowing you wasn't going to be with her, and you reckless, going straight raw, and just the character is just marked. So everyone you go around when you bring them 3 kids and it's 3 different women. Oh, John, hey, what's going on? I see you with your family. Oh, hey, how you doing? They catch you at an event somewhere. You got one of the baby mamas with you, but you got all the kids. Oh, wow. So, what are your names? Little Joey and Johnny, and you got Priscilla over here. Oh, wow. And you meet the woman. And you're the wife? No, I'm not his wife. I'm just his child's mother. Oh, all right. And they see that, and they're saying in the back of their mind, that baby mama thing again. So, same thing happens, man. She says, oh, wow. The woman looks, or the individual, it could be a male. He looks at the woman. You have 3 beautiful children, ma'am. He's talking to the ball player's female that he's with. Oh, no. These 2 are mine, and that's his son by another woman. And they don't never blow up your spot. They don't never, what they going to say? But you're, oh, all right, that's nice. Oh, wow, maybe I'll meet her one day, the other child's mother. Oh, all right. So you 4 different 5 kids by 5 different women. That is just totally undisciplined. You got people who their parents were ministers, and they baby mama action just like a dude from the worst projects in America. Just the moral code and the sign of discipline is gone. But then if you flip it to the street side, that means they ain't got zero game. Loose. See, loose with the game. Macking is all the way not existing. Just no macking, no game, no discipline. Just not nothing fly about that. When you just the dude, even in the street game, and you got 50 baby mamas, and it's a different rule, and it's a different, I guess they would say, a code of ethics in the street, and a different set of morals and norms, and mores and different things are different when you and they can't be compared to the mainstream American way. All right, cool. None of that don't matter when you get to child support, though. When you get to child support court, when you get to family court, they're going to let you have it. And then these athletes, these public figures, these even successful businessmen, business owners, they get to court and they crying like there wasn't nothing that they could have done to prevent this. Oh, man, she in here trying to ask me for $4,000 a month, man. What she think, man? She wasn't nothing but a broad I was hitting. Now, some of that's correct because a woman of moral standing from the past, in past generations, a woman did not just get pregnant randomly, because that was a reflection of the woman. But the place of where society has taken females in the era of equality, equal rights, and feminism, and you don't need a man, and a woman is equal, and a woman's child raised by a woman is just as good as a woman's whose children were raised by a family are equal. That's wrong statistically. If you look at every metric about a child from a single parent household, it's worse. More of them go to prison. Just more of them have problems. More of them are dropouts. More single parent household children are use drugs, are on drugs. And I'm not, you can point out the isolated incidents and the anecdotal evidence. So no, I know my man's in them. They single parent and he a doctor. But statistically, over 70%, if I'm correct, I'm ad lib with this kind of without looking it up and holding the statistics, but it's well known. 80% of all people in the penitentiary single parent household. All so-called African American, 80% single parent household now. In the 60s, up until the 60s, of course, they was throwing a number around on people. So-called African Americans had the highest rate of marriage. So forget about the marriage. It's the lack of discipline. And getting these women pregnant and then crying about how she's overcharging you in court because this is a baby mom's. If she were a regular woman and she was a working class woman, that would be detrimental for her. She may like you enough to want you in her life and want you around, so she got pregnant thinking that would cause y'all to be together. Women used to play that move. Well, if I get pregnant first, maybe I'll get a ring later and get married. And that's called putting the cart before the horse. The horse goes first, then the cart is after him. See, but they put it in the reverse way. Think, well, maybe I can trap this brother and get him to be with me, and then they found out the hard way that ain't gonna keep me around. But that still doesn't make it the woman's fault. She ranked herself and put herself in a category, but that also was the male who should have been protecting himself, protecting the crown jewels, protecting his legacy. And it's not saying I'm just gonna have any random woman carry my attribute, my title, and my empire that I build. No, that wasn't random, but now it's just loose. In the 1980s, when you go back and you see a lot of old movies are on cable, and you can find some channels that show nothing but reruns from the 70s, the 80s, and you see the shows, and we learned that there was a certain weapon that was popular in the 80s. It carried, if I'm correct, 9mm bullets. It was called the Uzi. Everybody thought it was cool back in the day when drugs was rolling in the 80s. It was a whole nother level in the era of Scarface, the movie, the remake movie with Al Pacino. Scarface came out back in like 1982. 82, 83, somewhere in there. It was Scarface, the movie Scarface. And everybody thought the Uzi was cool until they found out it wasn't accurate. It could spray up an area, but it wasn't an accurate shot. That's when we started seeing babies, random women getting hit. It just would spray indiscriminately. It was very hard, like, to just hit a pinpoint target. And that's what these dudes are doing with their semen. They shooting up everything loose and not paying attention, getting females pregnant. And it's a sad thing. It looks like a mental deficiency because of the way they cry about it. They getting bras who wouldn't have never got no money, no kind of other way. They just made this bra wealthy. She up in there talking about what she need because she trapped him, and that's almost like game because she played him like a sucker. She was the con woman and they was the mark, and she played them like a mark and took advantage. Got pregnant by this lame ass sucker. I ain't like him no way, but I could probably get $4,500 a month and don't got this 18-month insurance plan. So any dude who got that treatment with getting that kind of paper, they getting looked at like a sucker. And they played themselves accordingly. It's a sad situation. So we don't have to say a name, and that's not about that. It's the fact that the game was lacking. We see these. It has gotten sad. It ain't even something to mock and disrespect, or as they would call. It definitely ain't about trolling, because a real one ain't gonna troll. But it's just a sad state of affairs of a people that come from greatness. And then they stoop and lower themselves to the lowest denominator of culture and refinement and class and dignity. They just throw it all away, knowing some of these dudes' parents wasn't like that. They had morals and standards even when they didn't have money. And they just loose with the game. Didn't even get married and get divorced. That's going to cost even more. But they had no plan of action for this child. They saw the woman. She was attractive physically. They liked her body. And it was just a sexual escapade that turned into an 18-year commitment. Individual ain't going to be getting that basketball money for 18 years, though. That's the problem. So a reduction is going to be requested. There's certain players that they went broke. Not because of the child support, but related bad investments. But the child support payments were always in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not the low millions in child support that they gave these women, depending on the jurisdiction in the state where they got this woman pregnant. It was just a terrible move. It was a big trick move, the biggest lame move of just that takes away all respect from an athlete. When you go to the next level, you get the athlete who did not have the prenuptial agreement. He married this woman, something happened to him, and she's sitting on tens of millions from his indiscretion and bad decision. So it's not to put these young men down. It's just that they not watching the game and they ain't paying attention, through the I guess they would call it the favoritism that they enjoy, the status, that athletes enjoy, because people with wealth, people with status, attractive people, they get treated differently than everyday people. They get benefits and favors that others don't get. So while people turn and look the other way at people with talent, sometimes they forget reality and they think they can do stuff that they really shouldn't do. And there's a hungry female sitting in the background saying, yeah, that's a mark right there. That's a sucker. I'm going to get him. I'm going to give him this. I'm going to have sex with him, get pregnant, and I'm in the money. And that's always been a factor for at least 40 years. Women, because as I said, about 40 years ago, dignity hadn't turned that way. And there was also a time when a woman would get pregnant and that would force that athlete to marry that woman. He said, well, I'm going to go on and marry her. I didn't got her pregnant. We're in the era where people didn't want to get that woman pregnant. That was her hustle. There was a time when a woman got pregnant, her family, in shame, would move that woman out of town. They would send her down south, or they would send her up north to another relative. And when they got there, she'd be pregnant. They had houses. They used to have like how they have women's shelters and domestic shelters or domestic abuse. They had shelters where pregnant women went. It was like a house for pregnant women. The woman would have the child there, and then they would either get the child immediately adopted and give the child away, or, and this was through the 50s. Through the 50s, it was because this was odd. They get rid of that woman. And they would have this child either be adopted or they would give that child to another relative somewhere else where we gonna move her down south, and the girl could come back and get back in school and at least finish high school and may go to college. They had other women who, when they came back, all of a sudden that wasn't their child, that was their little nephew or that was their little brother, because the woman would probably be under 18, and they would call the child would call the grandmother Big Mama. That's Big Mama, Big Mama. And then they would be calling the parent by her first name. And they wouldn't even know, or they wouldn't even say out loud. They would tell the child that wasn't their mama at first. And then they would just be calling them. They would kind of know that was their mama, and they might know, but they would just call her, Janet, call them their first name. So it was some things that happened within the culture that was, very different. But at a certain point, the morals went just out of the culture, where it wasn't a shame no more. Women weren't shamed for getting pregnant without being married. We've come so far, or gone so far down, where now you see married women pregnant before they even get a divorce. They didn't even file the paperwork for a legal separation, because for a legal separation, depending on the jurisdiction, the area, the state, the city, there was a certain amount of time that an individual had to be separated from that woman. They may have to fill out a form, and it would say, well, how long have you not lived with this individual? And it may have been a certain amount of months before that was made legal. So that was a little different. Then the old school before that, they would separate from their husbands and spouses, and they may not never even get divorced, because back then they didn't believe in the covenant of divorce if they were going by the Bible, the Christian Bible, and religious texts. But now ain't no rules, and everybody is just loose. And that comes from a whole lot of factors that we won't go into that. But let us just also mention that we had to build for the streets. See, that's the reason why, as we mentioned it, Charleston White is such a huge phenomenon right now, because Charleston White is not the current hot figure in entertainment. Every so many years, there's a phenomenal speaker, radio personality, or celebrity that everybody is just, paying attention to. They're the biggest, they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, so to speak. They're just big. And he right now, Charleston White, is popular, but that's a different reason why. The reason why Charleston White is so popular is because of his grassroots beginnings and the knowledge that he has about social issues and working with youth and working with children. That is what he can always lean back to in between the comedy and the jokes. You gotta have jokes. Black folk don't like a lot of serious content at the working class level, but the same could be said about any other group. All groups, all common groups. We can't say one group is that way, but we know that because of who we're around. But it's just a fact of entertainment as a people in relation to how much talent so-called black folks have. Like anybody with that amount of talent, they wouldn't just be buffoonery and coonery and playing games all the time. They serious because they actions, their history is serious. Where they come from is serious. Their journey is serious. But people say we have to downplay it. They've downplayed the so-called black. They bring all these other people up who ain't even black, who come to United States and give their best rendition of black. They imitate black. They think they don't talk black, but when they go back to where they from, they don't talk like we talk here where they from. And the reason, if they do talk the way where they're from like we talk here, they seen it on TV, radio, media, music. They heard the songs. They saw ignorance personified in mainstream media here, and then they imitate it there before they even get here. What they doing over there is speaking a completely different dialect in a completely different way. The way they talk here is the way we talk here. So for people to say, oh man, African American, so-called black, American descendant of slavery, they don't have culture. Well, that just means you forgot where you at. Because in Jamaica, they don't talk like this. In Trinidad, they don't talk like this. In Dominican Republic, they don't talk like this. They speak Spanish. They speak patois. They may speak the King's English if you go to Jamaica, but the accent is 100% completely different. But because people have a colonized mind, in their mind, you got that from the white man. That's how come they're allowed to come here, because they come here with a slave conquested mind. They already been conquered. But as you get back to what we were saying, as you get back to the story of, let us explain this. We got something called, our people, they came with a whole new concept for people called empowermentforthepeople.com, showing people in inner cities in the street how to elevate their lives and create their own businesses for free. Empowermentforthepeople.com, empowermentforthepeople.org. It show them how to start a business at a basic scale. Website does it free. It's a book that go with it. And that's linked on the website. That's just giving something free, because sometimes people trying to overcharge people that's inner city people or working class people, and that's just something for the people, because that idea, empowerment for the people, that comes from Tupac Shakur when he had his song, I think it was 1993, recorded in 92, I think, and it was 1993, Keep Your Head Up. That was the single from, I think it was the album Strictly for My Ninjas. And so he was talking about, will the real man get up? So my people said, well, let me do something and answer that while the sisters trying to keep their heads up. So we made it where sisters can get them a job, get them a career that they own. They may still going to need to do something else until it takes off, but they got a lane they can do that's positive. They ain't got to be, for the whole early 2000s, they ain't got to be on Love and Hip Hop or be no stripper, because that was the low-brow, ignorant people that was being taken advantage of. Some people want to have respect and be dignified. So that's what Keep Your Head Up was. It was a song dedicated to the so-called African-American woman, not an African, but the so-called American descendant of slavery, the people from the States, because that's what Tupac was. So that's what that was. So that's why I say, when you talk about giving something and doing something, a lot of people got it, but they don't know what to do with it. So that's just something that our people, we said, we'll put that together. I think it's, the book is, I think, Unlock the Physical Fitness Expert Within You. That's Ishmael Ill put that out. Unlock the Physical Fitness Expert Within You. That's the book. That's an ebook on Amazon. So that's the extended version. But as far as just the free amount of information to know what to do, that's males and females, but dedicated to the females, to the sisters. Just to know what to do, that's empowermentforthepeople.com. So that's what that is. So that's why we say we ain't going to just say it, but that's what Charleston White had already done. Activism, just doing something in the streets, helping people in the streets, because what we do now, we celebrate everybody who destroyed the streets, so respect to those that destroy, because we was all out there, and maybe being destructive at any point in time in our own way. But a lot of dudes committed themselves to that destruction and went to the penitentiary. So they come back and they want to get on a podcast and talk about penitentiary conversations. There's nothing there. Show about something. That's build, don't destroy. And people say, well, I'm just telling people not to do what I did. Well, if they had a parent, I guess you're right. 80% of them don't grow up with a so-called male figure in their household. So maybe they got to listen to you. Maybe their uncle was in the penitentiary the same way you was. Maybe they didn't have nobody around that had the game to know. The game used to be to avoid the penitentiary. Still be in the street, possibly. But not to be about that prison culture. So that's being sold too. That's sold mainstream media. That's what makes this digital media a whole different phenomena, a whole different realm, because all that other stuff ain't being pushed as the mainstream would. There was a time when you would never see the mainstream media pushing so much penitentiary and lowbrow information, so much low-level so-called culture destruction. Then they pay them people off to be destructive. Your mama sold crack or this and that. That wasn't never nothing to be talked about. That was just something to be known. We knew it, but it wasn't brought up. It was the child was to be taught in the direction to be positive. The child be in the middle of that and didn't know nothing about that. So now those who have that type of pedigree are pushed, but in the street they don't get no real props, because the real ones don't even make themselves seen. The real ones don't even make themselves known. You don't know them. They ain't broke enough to have to come beg some dude to do an interview on a podcast in terms of by promoting gangster activity. You ain't gonna see them dudes. You never will. Trust it. They not doing it. And the ones who consider and call themselves real and they still showing themselves, the game ain't to be told, sold, or exposed. And some might say the game is to be sold, not told. But the real is omerta. Death before dishonor. They ain't even supposed to be talking. Omerta is silence amongst the Italians. But amongst every culture, shut up. Don't talk about criminal activity. Law enforcement is doing so great in this era, they don't even got to come outside because these dudes testify and talk so much and they don't even know who's listening. They just prove themselves to be ignorant. The same kind of people that are created through these baby mama situations. And then the sad part is a lot of people grew up with their parent. Funny thing was, in the early day, up until the 80s, or let's go into the 70s, 1970s, when people had both parents, the thing was, parents used to work so much, they was in the home, they was paying the bill, but while the parents was in the house, the kids would be in the street. So, but you still had a dichotomy. There was some responsibility that had to be taken by the children, or and and they did have, like, they couldn't just be one way 100% until they got loose, until they just went wayward. But the game ain't waywardness. The game is to be flying smooth. See, so when they threw out certain things, dudes thought that was the game because somebody taught them that was the game. But that wasn't never live, real macking. It wasn't long range macking at all. It was far from it. So, of course, you're going to sell the stuff to have them in the penitentiary. These is just marks. These is marks. They wasn't getting no super money, and they wasn't really doing nothing but being in the world in the way. So they ain't nothing to say. They was in the way of the game. See, they didn't know how to stay in the game. That's all that was. So everybody talking don't know nothing. They just talking, and the real is sitting back listening. But if we could say that in between saying go to empowermentforthepeople.org, go to empowermentforthepeople.com, go there and get some free knowledge for those that don't have, and maybe they can build. So if it's ever a so-called shutdown, they got a second job that they can build and own for themselves, and that's free game. See, now if they want the extended level, the 100% customized information, that's a whole different. But just giving up something free to build the streets, that's what happened. In the 80s and the 90s, people was taken from the streets. They wasn't giving nothing out. You having a turkey drive and a book bag drive, that's cool. But it's not the foundation and principles of building community. That was destroyed. That'll never happen again in that way from that group of people. Because, like I said, they tokens. They just bring them out. Oh, my man was in jail. Why I need to know that? I knew who you was when you went to jail. I remember when you was on your way to the penitentiary, when we was in the street. And you go to the club right now, and that dude balling with all the money, he's the man. But you already know he ain't going to be on the street that long, so let him have his moment. But the other dude is just like a marathon or a sprint. You going to sprint to the money, or you going to run the long game, the long run, the long race, and you going to still be there. That's what wasn't taught no more. They started telling dudes that 100-yard, that 100-meter dash was the one. Oh, man, you do the 100, you the top guy. Nah, it's the long-range dude. It's the dude running the New York City Marathon. It's the dude running the long race. You know what I'm saying? That's the one. It's the long run. So it's the one going to school, and he fights through with a part-time job. And I say, I'm going to take this part-time job. I'm going to work. I'm going to do this part-time work. I'm going to get these credits, and I'm going to go to school at night while I work in the day. And then I'm going to build myself. I got my trade. I know how to do auto mechanic. I got my whatever certificate or professional pursuit one does. That's the game. That street stuff is just fast and destructive to oneself. So these dudes is out here getting these females pregnant, lacking game, lacking knowledge. No real dude talked to them to the point where it penetrated their brain to say, I ain't gonna do that. That's a trick move. That's a sucker move. They ain't see it. I'm not going to just come up in this female and get her pregnant, and then I'm going to come up to her and lose my control over myself. Now it's in her control. Her life, your finances are now part of her control. So you a lame right there, if you did that, you put a female over your destiny. That's a sucker move. That's a trick move. See, when you go back to the past, the far past, take it back to the 1970s, from 70 roughly till 1985, they wasn't even bringing dudes up on child support cases. You used to go by, you see the kid, you bring something every birthday, and everybody just made it the way they made it. Child support wasn't a factor until like the mid-80s. And then once child support was a factor and they dragging dudes up in court, they going through your pockets. What you got, how much you make, where you be at. Now you getting pressed like a mark by a dude who don't even know you. So you didn't put a dude in who don't even know you, who don't even know nothing about you, and now he telling you how to regulate a child that you brought into the world because your game is weak. That's weak game, or it was dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional if you didn't know no better, but it's weak if you didn't know the strategy of controlling your destiny. That's what made it a mark move. That's what made it where you just ruined this child's life because he don't even have the direction he should have. This woman said, I'm a hustle. She a woman. What do she know when it come to knowing not to bring a child into the world that under the wrong circumstances? But you put her in a position to allow her to make a decision over you, and you supposed to be the one. Yeah, she looked bad because she got the kid, and of course, she played her hand out. She'll get more sympathy from you at that time. But if you the leader, the maker, the owner, the elevator, the foreseer, the visionary, you're the one supposed to say, oh, no, I ain't going out like no trick. Ain't nothing free. See? Ain't no the P, except the P. That's what you're supposed to know, man. This game is long range. But nah, you done played it like a losing situation. Got this woman pregnant. You making millions of dollars in professional sports, and instead of knocking it down and sending her, back to where she came, sending her with some little gift, no, you done ended up in court, subpoenaed to show up. DNA testing required. That's a sucker move. Your game was definitely wrong, but that come from the dysfunction of the Asiatic man, the so-called unconscious, the so-called dysfunctional inner city youth. That's what it was. So it's already written in data and research of the household without a black male leader there. You just contributed to that as a millionaire. A millionaire doing the same thing, a ghetto level, low level, and this could be any group, not just so-called black, working class to lower class, working poor. You just have the same fate they got. While you say, well, I can pay for anything, but you still only get to pick that kid up with your 50-50 custody with your scheduling. You get to pick that kid up, drop him off, so he half at your house and half over there, but you paying for both spots if you really balling. No plan. You just shot the jump shot and didn't even look at the clock. You didn't know how much time was on the buzzer. And here you are just shooting randomly. Just, you get thrown the alley-oop. You're supposed to catch it and put it through the hoop. You ain't supposed to just it's supposed to be playing team ball. But nah, you being selfish. You thinking about what's going on in the lower chakras, as they would say in Eastern philosophy. Low balling. That's what you doing. Man, if you was a baller was also epitomized by a street dude, but it was also a way of life of thinking. I'm a big one, the big boss. I'm a baller. See, because it was the standards of just being smooth. They don't know nothing about the history of it. Then these dudes became tricks. They go to the strip club, you throw a bunch of cash at a female that you're not even going to see the next night. You done hit her off with 10, 20, 30, 40. That's a trick move too. Now, if you want to do a tribute and throw her a little something, just looking out for her occupation and supporting. But these dudes then gave bras the amount that they could have built community centers and rec centers in their community. They could have put that paper in the bank. They could have went and bought some jewelry. They could have went and styled on these bras with a new car. They could have got flyed 100 different ways. They could have bought their mama a new refrigerator and a new kitchen set. And you would say, I just bought her that. They could have did it again. Well, you going to get this for your family. family, for your friend. You would have did something else fly. But you've been conditioned to think being a trick because you saw tricking. When you saw these dudes getting all that street money, that's different for them. It's street money. They just throwing it everywhere. They in the street. So for them to throw 50 at a broad, they like, yeah, I'm just doing it. But even when they come home, they be missing that 50, that 60 they threw away. You give something good to those that deserve. I'm not saying don't pay them, but they were straight tricking. Dating them bras, getting them pregnant. That's a dancer, bruh. That ain't no live, like high-minded woman. Unless she was checking the trap of it, and you ain't checking the trap because you're supposed to elevate her to some higher game. Yeah, I ain't gonna give that game up because it's just game that they ain't got. Why would I say, nah, man, no, they can't get it all. But let's just run it where we got a show and we can say a little something and we can say empowerment for the people. See, instead, empowermentforthepeople.com, not no 1960s slogan of memories and even peace to them, because the inspiration come from them. The Black Panthers, the Black Power movement, the inspiration come from that. That's why Pac got it like that, and that's where Pac got it from. When you look at the first people to have free breakfast programs, that come from the Black Panther Party for self-defense. See, so when we say empowerment for the people, we got to give it up to the streets, but we get them something where they can start them a business and they can be legitimized. Do this legit move. Get in shape. Get on your sit-ups. Get on your fitness. Don't wait to go to the penitentiary to do that, because we don't go to the penitentiary. We stay out here on these streets. See, that's another game. They picked all the dudes who was backward and put them in positions of power. That's why whoever taught these kids, you having basketball money, but you just got bastardized thoughts. They don't got no original vision of doing nothing big. They doing trick moves, sucker moves. That's a mark. The woman see you in the corner of the club. She's saying, yeah, girl, here he is right there. He just got a new contract. He just got a max out deal. Broad, no more your financial situation than ESPN. She know everything about you. Yeah, he's 6'5". He played at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He was the leading scorer in the conference. He was a freshman player of the year. She know all your business as a player with no other mark. She knows she getting ready to run long con on you, and you looking at that big old booty like atomic dog. Why must I be like that? Why must I chase the cat? And you chasing that cat, blinded by the light. That's all you see is a big butt and a smile. Oh man, she feeling me. No, she feeling your bank account. She feeling your status quo level you on. And you ran through it. You loose with it, man. You shooting up the club. You got all the women pregnant. And you looking real silly as a culture, as a people. I'm like, damn, they don't got no real dudes? They mama told them, man. Ain't nobody told them don't trick. Nah, because they ain't got that. See, these kids done told them it ain't tricking if you got it. See, or some weird saying that they thought was game because they heard it from somebody who ain't never been in the street, ain't never been a part of the elite, high level. See, when they say street, they think guns, illegal activity, and criminality. That's all they know, because the real dudes walk right past them. Oh, I ain't messing with them. They used to call them stew bums. They just bums. They just marks, pardon my language, marks, not even bum. That would be insulting of a so-called bum. They marks. That mean they victims. We gonna get their money from them. They send the real dude used to send the girl to see him. Go over there and get pregnant by that dude. That's how much of an unfocused, undisciplined individual these dudes was. They ain't got no game. It was a national shame. So these individuals that got these women pregnant, they up in the court commissioner, the court officer, he got the gavel in his hand, and he talking to them like they boys, sonning them. What you gonna do is, your payment is gonna be $2,200 a month. You will pay for the child's education. You will pay for his piano lessons. You will pay for ballet for his little sister. That's your child too, right? Yes. And the baby child's mother, she will have 50-50 custody, and the child will live with her. And you got millions, and you getting talked to like a common dude who ain't got no paper. The common dude said, well, I'm going to get her pregnant because she was getting Section 8. And at least I could stay over there if I fall off. And at least I know them my kids. So I kind of got her. I kind of got her a little bit. No, they reversed that game. You was long ranged and shot past everybody. Made it out the community of poverty. And you done perpetuated a cycle of low mindset. A cycle of low culture. Low standards. That's what you did. The male who is a so-called entertainment athlete or celebrity has a lack of discipline when it comes to women, a lack of knowledge and a lack of foresight and vision of how it should be done. He's a mark. The girl in the corner looking at him, yeah, girl, I'm going to act like I don't like him, but she got you. And you didn't just knock it down in a smooth way where everybody left happy. Nah, you didn't commit it to an 18-year cycle of you paying her like was ignorant, and you're not even going to have that much money for a 10-year run. After your career is done, you're going to ask for a child support reduction because your money going to be short, and you still going to have another 5 to 7 years that you still got to pay. The woman that made $400,000-$500,000 off you as a mark. You didn't get nothing. You didn't get nothing that was worth it. Any other woman gonna get with you because she gonna say, well, yeah, I know he got all these children out of wedlock and other little step kids I gotta have around and I don't really want to see, but I'm gonna go on with the mark because I'm gonna hit him. I'm gonna get him for a lick too. I'm gonna just leave him a little later because she gonna leave too. If she don't leave, she gonna catch that bread. She there for the money. So it's soon athletes are gonna realize, man, this chick here for the money. She don't like me. She just like me for what I got. But for some reason, somebody thinks, well, I'm real and I'm live. No, you just listen to a lot of records with people singing how they real and they live and they marks too. Some of your top entertainers on all these records talking like they got game and they done ran off, got with this broad who ain't nothing but a broad that be in the street and got her pregnant, married her or whatnot. They didn't know no better. But they didn't know that game. See, that's that game they didn't have. They needed to rewind one of them fake documentaries about game like everybody else do. That's why they got no game, because they watched you saw the DVD, you listened to the song, you saw the dude in the video with a fur coat on, you thought that was game, didn't you? You thought, I'm covered, man. I be bumping that space age macking. That's what you thought, and your outcome was the same as a mark. A mark. You had a dude with a colorful suit on and he was all talking that, Mac game, and he watched you play yourself and he proclaimed to be a player. He played you. He just sat by and watched you do a mark move because you wasn't his peer. He wasn't responsible. He just stayed around you because you was paying. You was paying him just like you pay a broad. So he was like a broad, but he was formerly a player. But he said, I'm still a player because he playing you because you want to be a player. So you playing player and you ain't a player because you around a player. So I've heard them say, I've heard brothers explain it, real ones, or he ain't no player. He's a player's friend. See, you a player's friend. You ain't the one. You just the one standing next to the one. And that's all it is to it. And the actions prove. You cannot have nothing, but at least have your principles, have your dignity, and have the way you conduct yourself of being cultured. They call it class in the European world. Have some class. But goddamn, just be cultured. They ain't got it. Not one curse word in this tape. So one more point. Pardon, I didn't get to even say nothing about no games, no jokes, and have no fun. Pardon, because this is all. If I say Charleston White, it's jokes and fun, right? Yeah, it ain't that uncut. Have a little humor with it. Because if it's in real life, everyday living, we gonna laugh about it. And that's all it's going to be. We going to laugh and it ain't serious. And this ain't nothing to offend anyone. We didn't mean it in that way. But in a characterization kind of way, which is what Charleston White really brought to digital technology. Because this is the Online Time Fame podcast. Because it's online time fame. Because now that's a whole new era of fame. It's online times. You got kids that's streaming time. They bigger than celebrities from streaming itself. So it's online. It's all part of the online network. So we've been doing this. We did it a couple years ago under the same framework, but we didn't have the formula like we got now. And it's a new formula. We've been fortunate that we come into the situation, and we got the phenomenon known as Charleston White, who gives up the game, who showed us that was his characterization of an entertainer. And it wasn't him, but it was a character, but there's still truth, and it was still work that he had done in the community to help others. So that's why we said it's empowermentforthepeople.com, empowermentforthepeople.org. That's the part that help people, show people how to build their own business for free. Go get that. And that's going to come back around and serve us. So if we can do that on the free, we already got what we working on the real. But while we working on that, we still got enough game to give some. See, and that's what these other dudes lack. Everything they get is what they took. Ain't nothing about what they gave. Sometimes you give people something and they didn't deserve it no way. And then you give it to them and it don't come back, and that's why you end up with nothing, because you gave it all away. But as we say, while these dudes supposed to be real, they got spotted in the corner, in the club, in the strip joint, and the bra said, he's a lick right there. I'm going to hit a lick on him because he ain't got enough discipline to not get me pregnant. So he done that. He done paid 18 years for one night with that woman. He was with her. He thought it was fun, but he lost focus. He took his eye off the road and swerved off the curb and hit the curb. He didn't know. He ain't had no game like that. They never been around it. They just seen it on TV and in movies, and they thought that's what it was. But that which was right in front of them, that which their parents told them, what grandmama told them to watch out for, they ain't listening to none of that. They didn't have it. So that's trick game right there. That's sucker moves, as they call it. And it ain't to be even disparagingly saying about them. They just didn't have it. They ain't have what it took. They had the jump shot. They could run real fast. They was able to, sky and do the backward dunk and the alley-oop. They got all that. But when it came to some straight game, some straight wisdom from the ancients, they ain't have it. Had no clue. They don't teach that in school. See, and as you say, it's 80% so-called black boys, growing so-called children, 80% in the so-called African-American household, coming through them single women. So that woman told him what to do. We can't completely blame her, but she shouldn't have chose that dude, and you knew he wasn't going to be with you. So everybody got to really know.
Knock it off.
They don't know that. They don't know to say, hold on, because when you really think about it, all you would say is,
let me tell all you fancy-ass ball-playing Negroes something.
What these ball players need to know is stay focused. Stay focused. Now, they already made the 18-year move. They done already got these females pregnant that they should have been watching, and that's going to destroy their careers. You got a lot of people, you say, man, why he moving like that? Why he doing them backward moves? Because 3 days a week he got to deal with this broad that he got pregnant, that he was dumb enough not to know that she was going to catch him. I mean, sometimes, they got those mirrors that you get from the circus. The circus got that mirror where when you walk in, it make you look extra wide or it make you look extra tall. So a lot of these athletes got the mirrors from the circus in their house, and that mirror done told them, man, you a fly, handsome, smooth dude. Nah, you funny looking with big feet. But that woman ain't gonna tell you that. You funny looking, but you got money. So I'm gonna roll with you. I'm gonna get pregnant by you, and I'm gonna hit this lick, and I'm gonna still kick it with the dude I want. We wasn't married no way, but you gonna be getting a letter from my lawyer. These women is lawyering up like gangsters. They lawyering up just like a real dude with money, like business corporations. All of a sudden, the lawyer that took her case pro bono, he checking you, NBA player. You are an embarrassment to the sports world. This is why when they can't find you, they serve you at the game. These lawyers is running up in your office saying, well, we can't find your employee, the individual that plays for your team, but we're looking for him to serve him this subpoena. Can you please give him a message that we looking for him? And then when you come in the office, they're like, well, Jay Quavius, a process server came here saying you had some woman pregnant. Oh, no, she tripping. You know what I mean? That wasn't with the jump off. I don't even care nothing about her. Oh, my God. Sad. It's a sad embarrassment to us all, even when they do something. We saying this, but it makes us all look bad. It's now it does show and shine when we're seen in the flesh, to know we on a whole nother psychological, mental level, disciplinary level. Like she don't, like, these dudes ain't got no martial art mindset skill. They don't know nothing about karate.
Do you know karate?
No, but I'm a fast learner. I can learn how to chop me a motherfucker.
These dudes ain't got no skill set. None. They just coming in, throwing bolo punches, missing the target, and making a mistake. Just making these women wealthy, and just out of just debauchery, pure lust, and a lack of respect for oneself. And it's a sad situation. But we'll just let us go on that. But we just wanted to hit y'all with a little quick 1, 2, 1, 2. You are listening to the Online Time Fame Podcast. I'm JD. You know what I mean? We appreciate y'all listening. We just doing it, man, to give something away with it, give some knowledge, and elevate, and let it be known. Don't be fooled. Don't go for the okie dokie. Stop going for the okie doke. Educate yourself. It ain't about listening to nobody else. Educate yourself and protect yourself from the bad things that can happen to you, because of you, from you. Don't let this be your error, and you pay in your error. In your error. Yes, ERA. Don't make that error. ERROR. Don't make it. Don't let these females take you, and don't take her through something she didn't go through. Just hit her with some bread. Here you go, shorty. Do that and go out and have yourself a good time. Here go a little something. You can still ball out and be fly, but don't let her have you under obligation for 18 years because a professional athlete is playing himself, allowing himself to be played like a mark. A mark in the dark is what they used to call it. Yeah, he's a mark in the dark, sadly. And with that, let us just say peace.